What up, guys? What is going on? What's happening? It's Chunk, and today we're gonna be 3D scanning some stuff. I have one, two, three, four, five, 6 models for multiple different clients that we're going to be 3D scanning. I am going to be using CR Studio, which is proprietary to Creality. Creality makes like the Ender series printers and whatnot. And the first 3D scanner that I purchased was a Creality scanner. Since then, I've bought a RevoPoint scanner, which does like bigger things. The Creality comes in clutch. I'm gonna go ahead and on the TikTok page, I'm gonna go ahead and hide the left side of the screen so you can mainly see the scanning page here. On over there on Twitch, you can go ahead and see the full screen. You can see all the doodads and nuances of this 3D scanning software. So yeah, we are 3D scanning. Let me go ahead and I actually have a thing here. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Apps Manager. So with my Streamlabs, it comes with Streamlabs music, which is non-copyright, or at least that's what it says. We're gonna go ahead and put some music in the background, so y'all aren't listening to nothing. Let's see. Yeah. I know that. Streamlabs music. We'll go with Vlogger. What's Vlogger? To be honest, it works. We'll go with it. Just random, almost like, oh, we're making stuff. So welcome to the stream. So the first little doodad we're gonna go ahead and scan is this piece here. So the customer wants me to make some more of these. I don't want to just model it with 3D modeling software, which I can. It's somewhat of a simple piece, but I want to kind of showcase the 3D scanning. So it does an initial scan of the build plate, not the build plate, but the scan plate. The scan plate has a bunch of letters and stuff like that that the scanner can see, so it can kind of tell like what's the floor and what is going to be the object that we're laying on top of it. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and eventually place objects on top of this rotating plate in front of me, and then the printer should be able to detect this piece versus the bottom. Now, mind you, 3D scanners do not pick up dark objects very well. This is like a black piece, or almost black. So we'll see if it can even scan this. If it can't, there's a few workarounds. They actually sell 3D print spray, which is hella expensive. I want to say it's like baby powder in can form or something. It does like a layer of foam that evaporates, and it stays on the product for like, I don't know, 5-10 minutes or so. We ain't about that life. What I'll probably do is I have climbing chalk. I used to rock climb, not a lot. Like I rock climbed a little bit, and I still have a bag of chalk. What I could probably do is just wet the object, smother it in chalk, and then it'll be white, and then I can go ahead and 3D scan that. So let's go ahead and hit stop on the, detecting of the build plate. Let's go ahead and lay our object on, and let's hit scan and see if it can pick it up. So it looks like it cannot see the geometry of the item. So let's go ahead and adjust the brightness. Maybe make it brighter. Yeah, making it brighter, it looks like it can go ahead and see. Let me brighten up my lights too. And let me adjust the lighting. So the lighting matches. So what I did is I put the light behind the 3D scanner, so the reflection of the light on the piece gets bounced back to the scanner. So of course it's going to give me a fairly raw, fairly rough scan of this piece. You can kind of see here. So it detects the bottom plate, and then it can see the object you put on there. Again, it was a very rough scan. We'll go ahead and do another one now that we've adjusted the lighting. adjusted the settings here. We'll increase the brightness again on the scan plate, and we'll do that scan one more time, see if it can pick it up. So this is on max brightness on the software, and then of course I have my light coming from behind the scanner. It does look like it's picking up the object, maybe? You can see like the blue flickering. It's doing a bunch of like photos, right? It's taking images, bum, 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 and it's gonna line everything up. I'm not sure why the floor is changing colors. It might be too bright. If it is, we'll go ahead and redo with just the one click down, because it seemed like it wanted to grab it. And of course we changed that, the lighting and all that, like halfway into the scan. So that should go ahead and correct that first scan that we had there. Looking at the memory on my PC, yeah, I need to start cleaning up my desktop. my mess is running out of RAM. Was it not scanning? I'll just scan. We'll name this handle clip. All right, here we go. Now it's scanning. The other one was just kind of detecting the build plate. But so this is kind of like showcasing like the software and the hardware that I use. This is just one of the scanners. The other one that I have can scan large items. It is the Revel Point. It actually looks like a freaking Xbox Connect. But this one, the beauty part about this one is this one can be hooked up to your phone, and then you can go ahead and do a 3D model on the go. It is very sensitive to bright light. You can't scan outdoors with that. I tried to scan. I had one client that wanted me to scan his head, and he stopped by, and I kind of didn't want him to come in the apartment. And I was like, well, let's go over here in the shade and try to scan you. And it actually was too bright. He actually did have to come inside and scan his dome indoors. It's a little embarrassing. My apartment is very small. It's not made for people to be inside other than myself. So that was like, oh, okay, well, maybe next time for future scans I will go to their homes and do it in their places. Their homes are probably a little bit more presentable than mine. So what I did is I went ahead and rotated the object. I'm doing another scan. We're going to continue to rotate the object and scan it from all angles. And then the post-processing, what you do is you go ahead and you remove the floor, which is the rotating plate, and then you start lining things up. That's where it starts becoming a little difficult, because if you don't line things up correctly, then the 3D model that you export is going to have some off geometry, and you kind of don't want that. I mean, you definitely don't want that. The whole reason for you scanning is because you want something accurate, right? Well, I hate to break it to you, 3D scanning isn't super accurate. A lot of the videos and stuff that you see are like the perfect scenario, in hours and hours of scanning and lining up and stuff. And you see like little time lapse of just people just throwing things together. You'll see the initial scan, and then you'll see the finished model, and it's like, nah, there was a lot of work in between that you're not showing the people. 3D scanners aren't very easy to use. It was funny because, so having the 3D print, facility that my home, the 3D print biz that I got, I've actually been contacted by some people who've actually tried to do this, and they've called me up and they're like, hey bro, I got a 3D scanner, I don't know how to use it, you want to buy it off me for a couple $100? And I'm like, well, I already have two, I don't need another one. Sorry buddy. And then they get all mad because they're like, well, you know how to use it, you should take it. I don't want it. They're selling on eBay, I don't want it. Here's another one. Again, very rough, very poor scan. It is a dark object, and that's kind of making it hard to scan. We'll scan it again. And actually need to find some putty so I can stand it up on its side, and then we'll rotate it standing upright, and then we'll flip it over and do the other way. I have some silly putty on my work table next to one of my printers. I'll bring it over in just a second. The beauty part about this is we're going to go ahead and remove that floor when we're doing the post-processing. So if the 3D putty does get scanned into the model, I can just omit that. I can just cut that out, and then it won't fuse that to the final render. All part of the learning process, the things that I've done. So let me go ahead and grab the silly putty so we can go ahead and orient this differently. Give me just 1 second. And if you're new here, welcome. This is Chunks 3D. I do semi-educational content. I do 3D printing as a profession. This is my main bread and butter, as you can call it. But I like to make content out of it so people can go ahead and learn about the process. They can learn about the ups and downs. If they are interested in getting into 3D printing, you know, they can take a little bit of what they've learned from my videos and incorporate it into their 3D printing. Or, you know, if they just want to just send it to me, that's fine anyways. Like, it doesn't, I'll do whatever, it doesn't matter. I've mentioned to people before, I'll 3D print practically anything so long as it's not firearm related. I have had people that call me up and they're like, hey, I just got myself like whatever, and I want to see if you could do like a no, no. I don't know you, you don't know me. I don't want to get in any sort of trouble. I want to continue doing this for a long time. I'm not in it for like I'm gonna be a millionaire overnight selling these things that shouldn't be made. You know, like, I'm good. So it looks like the scanner is only getting half the object as it's oriented sideways. You can see the gummy freaking silly putty right there. So let me go ahead and maybe set this up a different way. I'm going to get it closer to one end of the plate and we'll scan it again. Okay. So now it's on one end of the plate. It's going to get close. I hit the wrong button. And then initial. And then stop. And then scan. There we go. So it is closer to one end of the plate. So you'll see it get closer and farther, but at least this way it's standing upright so we can get a little bit more of that body on one side. Now it is on like a turntable. I can go ahead and move this turntable and it kind of follows it. It sort of knows, based on the table itself, like what object is what. But if you shake things up a little too much, it'll go ahead and start getting a lot of ghosting and getting a lot of like random geometry from other things. Whether it be like your thumb that just happens to get in frame or whatever, like it'll go ahead and just add all that. So you can see in the background here, it picked up a little of maybe my hand that just kind of happened to run by the camera right quick as it was scanning. So we're going to stand it up again. We're going to put it in the middle. We're going to get it closer to the camera. Again, I want to try to get as much of this geometry as possible before going through the last steps of the 3D scan, which is fusing all of the scans together, which is the headache portion of this. So I went ahead and scooted the build plate closer. Hopefully the the center is in a good position here to try to get a little bit more of the body as it's rotating, standing upright. Now, if objects are too close, it actually won't pick it up. If objects are too far, it won't pick it up. 3D scanners are very finicky. So it looks like it kind of wants to, but it's too close. Let's scoot it back a little bit. Now you can see like that body in the middle starting to build as it's scanning. So, what do you guys think? This isn't even like the headache portion. Like, you got to do a lot of scans, yes, but the hard part is when you start fusing everything together. Oof. So far we have 8 scans. Scan this again. So anything that's red, by the click of one button in the end, we can go ahead and just automatically remove that. Now, that's not going to remove everything that we don't want. Again, you can see that it's picking up the silly putty down at the bottom. We don't want that silly putty in frame. What we'll go ahead and do is we'll, using like a lasso tool, just like you would in like Photoshop or whatever, any sort of imaging, you go ahead and throw a lasso around it. The lasso is going to go ahead and mark that as red, and then you can go ahead and delete the red object that you went ahead and scanned. But you can see from the scans here, there's a lot of like random geometry, random shapes that it picks up. And this is the stuff that a lot of people who do 3D scanning, this is the stuff that they run into, and it's not fun. But like, if you zoom in to all these edges, like there's a lot of like random dots, random shapes, random stuff that it's trying to pick up. And when you're trying to get like an even, flat, like this is my finished object thing, that scan's not going to come out good. It never comes out good. For the most part, for me, when I do a 3D scan, it's to get the base shape of the model and size. I'll export it into CAD software or modeling software, what have you. And I'll either A, turn that geometry into a model that I begin sculpting and cleaning up on, or B, use that as reference and start building something to those dimensions. Now, I've done that in the past where I did this giant, it was a center console for like a 1940 something Chevy. It looked like an SUV, but it was like an old school car. Think of like a station wagon, but it was like a Ford. I don't know. The guy he's like a mechanic. He's does like a lot of custom body work. He wanted a center console that I can hold a modern stereo, which is like the ones with like the 7-inch LED screens. And originally it had, you know, the knobs, right, the little things, but around the steering wheel and around the glove box, it had this its own natural sort of like shape that was going across the car. But that center portion where the stereo was at was just a flat sheet of metal that was painted to be the same color of the car. And the guy was like, well, can you model something to match the glove box and the steering wheel, like the little curvatures and stuff, and we'll just put it in the opposite shape? Because it was kind of like a what do you call it? It was a pear. No, I forget the name of the shape. It wasn't a square, it wasn't a rectangle. It was kind of like cornered at the edges, but like flat, straight on the top. Anyways, it was kind of that shape, but rounded, and he was gonna do the opposite in the middle. So I went ahead and scanned the original ones, flipped them around, measured it out to the size that it needed to be, and I used that as my base for modeling and model based off those 3D scans. Again, it wasn't like a one-for-one, oh yeah, I got the model, and then just export. No. 3D scanning is a little bit more tricky than that. So right now, we have 9 scans. Let's go ahead and see. So 3D printing software, or 3D modeling, 3D scanning software usually has its own smart detection where supposedly it can line up your objects. We're going to go ahead and do that first so you can see how much of a headache it is and how much of a waste of time. And then we're going to go ahead and do it manually. Which is, again, is another headache. Get ready for double headache. Who's got the aspirin? This little background music is kind of like, mm. So align mode, auto, supposedly, this is what it says. With auto align mode, it looks at the geometry and aligns things accordingly. And then, once everything's aligned, we'll see what's what. We'll find out. Yeah. Double headache. Let's go. So, it does have an option where it's going to automatically fill holes. So any sort of like little bits and little shadowy areas where it doesn't have any sort of scan thing, it'll go ahead and fill that in. Now, of course, that's after everything's kind of like set in place. We're going to go ahead and hit process, and it's going to auto align and see how well it does. To be honest, this has only worked well one time. So check whether the effect is reasonable. Let's go ahead and move this. Hey, I can't see the object. No, manual alignment. Exit auto mode. So, one, we need to go ahead and remove all the stupid, nasty red. Delete selections, apply. Let it clock. Let it think about it. Then we're gonna start cutting out all the gummy because it wanted to go ahead and just use all that. See all this shadow, freaking floating Narnia over here? We don't need that. We can go ahead and come in, grab it, delete selection. Like, what it'll do if it's like blue and it's floating in the in outer space, the 3D print software is gonna be like, okay, well, you want that, right? And it's gonna go ahead and try to model something. It's gonna add a shape out here. There are gonna be little blobs, and it's just blobs of stuff you don't want. So we'll go ahead and do this one by one. We'll start hiding scans, right? We're looking at this. Look at how uneven that is. Like, look at that right there. Like, that's gonna try to make geometry, and we don't need that. So you can kind of like, and then delete that. A little bit better. On the back side as well. Let's grab and delete. And then we'll do it right here. We'll grab, make a straight line, delete. Same thing, look at that. Look at all this right here. We don't need that. And then delete. And now we need to get rid of all this silly putty. I actually had one guy earlier this week whom actually wants me to scan one of the things. He's like, yeah, if you got a 3D scanner, it should be relatively easy, right? And I'm like, oh, no. Have you been to any conventions? If yes, which ones have you been to? I went to TwitchCon 2 weeks ago. That was fun. When I went to TwitchCon, it was a lot of networking. I went there to let people know of Chunks 3D. So I've been live streaming for the past like 6 years, off and on. I never really did anything with it. I gamed a bunch. I had some little fans, one from like Hawaii, who kind of grew up watching my streams. I think he first started watching me when he was like 6. I had another person out in Belgium. She still like through Discord kind of like reaches out every once in a while just to say what's up. But I would like, live stream like Minecraft and all that, just the basic, just whatever's. But at the same time, I still had like my 9 to 5, and that was very like tiring trying to do 2 things at once, because Live streaming does take a lot of effort, especially if you want to try to grow. And at the time, I just couldn't do it. So, like I said, my channels have been out there on like Twitch and whatnot for like the past, I don't know, 6, 7 years. Um, but now that it's like, now that I'm doing 3D printing from home, right? This is my career. This is what I've chosen to do. The job that I had, I quit that job so I can do this full time. And now that I'm home and I'm doing this for myself, and adding this service to others, I want to try to make content out of it. I want people to see the possibility, all the things that you can do with 3D printing. I find it interesting. Sometimes I'll have the 3D printers, bzzz, like in the bottom corner of the screen, and then you can watch the printers go. You can ask questions on that, and then I'll like throw up like a gaming screen, and we'll play like Fortnite while the 3D printers are going. So I try to make my content like semi-educational, but still somewhat fun and entertaining. And I'm trying to like get it more regular, like show times. Like I want to be here like every day around 2 p.m. and just hop on whether I have something printing or not, whatever I'm working on, as long as it's not like a prototype where I had to sign a NDA. Like I'm letting you guys see the process on how everything is done, and I hope y'all find it entertaining. But yeah, I went to SwitchCon. I've gone to WonderCon before twice. There was one time where I dressed up as Dante from the newer version of Devil May Cry. I hand sewed that costume. That was pretty fun. But yeah, like I am a big nerd, as we are all are in some shape, way, or form. And yeah, just not ashamed by it. That's who I am. I am Chunk. Chunk is actually a nickname that my siblings gave me because we grew up. I mean, I'm the youngest of my whole family, and they're all like, they all grew up in the 80s. So the movie Goonies was very popular. And in the movie Goonies, there was a chubby kid named Chunk, and I was always a little husky. So that became my nickname. And I don't mind it. That's who I am. I'm Chunk. So much so that I named the business out of it. Okay, that one's cleaned up. We'll go with the next one. Let's see. Other conventions. To be honest, that's pretty much it. I haven't really gone out much. Like having like, as far as like doing stuff for my 3D printing, it's still relatively new. Which is why like I'm all ears if you guys know of anything coming up, But yeah, the TwitchCon was really cool. I did see a couple people that were like, I guess, somewhat famous. They have a lot of followers, and just meeting other people with the like minds. Yeah, thanks. With everything 3D printing, I am self-taught. I bought a 3D printer when they first came out. I still have it, the Enter 3. I got it like 6 years ago. And 3D printing back in those days was very, very difficult. There was a lot of nuances that you had to learn about the 3D printers. And all those hiccups deterred me from continuing to do stuff. And I set the printer to the side for like a year, didn't touch it, and then and then years later, after tinkering it with some more, I worked in the automotive industry, and I was the guy in charge of ordering parts for our fleet maintenance. And I brought up the fact that why don't we just 3D print some of these plastic parts instead of spending a bunch of money on it? They told me, that sounds like a great idea. Buy a scanner, buy a bigger printer, and show us some samples. And I said, you got it. So I bought a bigger printer, bought a 3D scanner, made a couple sample files, sample models, printed them out, gave it to them, and they said, "Excellent. We can go ahead and start with this immediately." And I said, "Okay, well, hold your horses. What's gonna be my incentive for doing this?" And they laughed and told me, "You like 3D printing?" Nope. I also like money. So at that point, I set up my Chunks 3D business on Google Maps. I brought all my equipment home, and I started offering my 3D print services to anybody who needs them. Yeah, that company was very not with the times. Their normal way of communicating is through insults and derogatory this and that about race and religion and blah blah blah. And before I left, I brought it up to HR, and HR was like, "Well, we can't prove that they said anything like this." And I was like, "Well, you know what? You guys are just in it to cover your butts, and I know that. So, you know what? Screw you guys. I'm out of here," and I just quit. Not a very fun work environment. But through 3D printing, I've actually met a lot of really nice people, and I've seen a lot of really cool designs and concepts for a lot of stuff. And it's like, you wouldn't have seen that staying in one area. If I would have stayed at that place and just done what they've asked, like, I would have never been able to see all these really neat designs and meet all these people. And I wouldn't be able to work from home and work with my dog just chilling right here on my feet. Like, this wouldn't be a thing. So it's very nice knowing that that I could do this and show you guys the process. But here we are cleaning up. You can see that everything that the 3D printer scanned, like the image parts, those are where it built the body. All the dark spots are the back sides of the images of what it scanned. So technically, this does not have any geometry to it. These are all one-sided images. Now, when it selects, does the whole fill holes thing, it'll try to build something behind here to make it like one piece. So when you start fusing all these different scans from different angles together, you should try to line it up as best as possible to limit to limit how many holes there are on the model, so there's not a lot of geometry that you don't need. So here we are, just making more things. I did get a phone call from a past client. Let me shoot him a text. That guy's got a prototype for an item, but I've been having some difficulty trying to print it because he wants it printed in ASA. Now, ASA has a higher it has a higher heat tolerance than ABS, and because of that, it's a little bit more difficult to print because then you in turn also have to print at a higher print temperature. It also is susceptible to warping. So while you're printing, as it cools down, it starts to curl up. So depending on the size of the object, depending on how thick it is and how long it's taking to print, all that factors into how much it's going to warp from the build plate. And his objects are kind of big, so unfortunately, out of the multiple times that I've tried to print them, they just keep coming out oddly shaped. I did let him know that maybe an SLS printer would be better for him, the printers that use powder, but unfortunately that's not something that I have at my disposal. So he might need to reach out to actual manufacturers like overseas to get his prototyping done in nylon. Nylon is just as good as ASA, but as mentioned, it will be made out of powder and fused via laser, and those parts are super accurate, super spot on, and super sturdy. And again, it's still technically 3D printing. So again, we're just cleaning up these pieces, getting rid of all that extra geometry that doesn't need to be there, or at least trying to. What am I 3D scanning? So this is a bracket that holds a door handle on a very old pickup truck. So the door handle itself is just a little, like, almost like a little flat metal bar that has some sort of like rubber on it. And so one end goes here. There's going to be another end on the opposite side, opposite mirrored one of these. This guy has one that's cracked and wants a replacement one, but he goes, oh, well, if I'm going to go ahead and replace this, might as well make all four and replace all of them in the truck. Because, of course, plastic over time becomes brittle, it cracks, it starts changing color and whatever. And being that this is an old pickup truck, we're just going to go ahead and make a new one. We also need to make a cover for the front part that hides the screw that screws this into the truck. So we're going to be modeling all that. Most likely, most likely after we get the 3D scan done, when we export this to 3D modeling software, we're going to go in and measure out and put a little cap on this. A little cap will just kind of snap in with little tabs on the side, and we'll do all that. But yeah, that's that. So this already kind of cut off that back end there. We can go ahead and clean up this end. And this is just one of the 3D scans that I have to do right now for some customers. So this same customer here, the same pickup truck, on the top of his, like where the seatbelt goes, right? This is a seatbelt cover, and this thing flips up so you can go ahead and access the bolt underneath. But the thing is, the backside's broken. And he needs another new one of these covers. This is going to have to be made a little bit differently. I'm going to make this part a little thicker, and I'm going to 3D print like it's almost going to be like a letter I, right? It's going to have a flat, long piece of TPU rubber filament here that's going to extend out, and then that other end of the I is going to be here. So it's going to kind of like lock in there and give it that rubber elasticity, so then you can go ahead and clip it closed in its little area. So we're going to be scanning and modeling that. Another part of a car is this thing. Yes, it looks like some inappropriate whatchamacallits, but it's not. He showed me what it's for. It goes when you're shifting gears in old cars, almost like, imagine like that button for your parking brake, right? You push it in and it needs to release somewhere. Where in the old car, instead of using a cable, it uses this nylon thing where you press it here and it gets pushed down through like a twisty, bendy like tube, and it presses another thing over here to release the shifter. He can't find these and needs another one of these made, so we're going to be 3D scanning this as well. You can kind of see it has a little bit of a curve to it. He wants it printed with a curve because he wants it to have as little resistance as possible going into the piece, so that when he goes ahead and pushes it, it doesn't break inside that bended tube. Lastly, the things that I'm going to be scanning are homies. You can kind of see that. The guy that does the maintenance here in my apartment complex, his son does like, he's a DJ, and they're kind of like into this stuff. So they want these models bigger. I printed him a DJ model already that was probably about like 10 inches tall, and I went ahead and painted it. It's kind of like part of like compilation videos that I have a little further back on my Chunks 3D pages. Another project that I still have to do, I've been holding off on it because I need to go through and sand it and try to get it as smooth as possible. But I have this resin print of a little like alien dude from a cartoon called Wizards. Anatomically correct. But I gotta smooth it out before I paint him green and just paint in his eyes, which isn't a lot. Like the painting portion isn't gonna take a lot, but it's just the sanding portion, especially for something like this, it's just kind of like nerve-wracking. Um, I've been holding off on doing that. That one is a little like freebie that I'm giving the guy. Just because one of the models that I did have like a model where it's like a batch of like bubblegum, right? And it holds a PlayStation controller. And he was like, oh, let me go ahead and get one of those, but for Xbox. And I was like, cool, I have the design for Xbox. I printed an Xbox one. I accidentally printed the one for PlayStation. So he's like, hey, it doesn't hold my controller. And I'm like, damn, you might have the wrong one. And he's like, well, instead of this, can you go ahead and 3D print like this model? And I was like, sure. So he's already paid me for the model, but I'm gonna throw in like the painting and stuff on top of that for free because I feel bad that I gave him the wrong design that he can't use. But yeah, that's kind of like the backlog of my Chunks 3D stuff that I got going on right now. It's not like a crazy amount of things, but it is kind of like build up over time because like at any given moment I can get a phone call from somebody and they say, hey, I have a 3D model, can you go ahead and pin it? Yeah. Yesterday on yesterday's stream I kind of showcased I can't open it now just because of how the sheer volume, right? One of the guys from the college near here, I think it's UCR, he reached out to me. He's starting a D&D campaign. He's like a dungeon master, and he needs minis for his D&D campaign. So he scoured Thingiverse. Thingiverse has a lot of free designs, and he found a lot of minis for D&D, and he sent them all to me. It's like 160 different figures that he wants printed. So I've been going through and printing that. Printing in resin is a little bit different. The supports don't print the same way that FDM printers do. So I had to go through and model all those supports myself, which I'm not like super good at it. So some of the prints didn't really work. So I had to go back and reprint them, and I'm still working on that. That's probably going to take me until the end of the week to print that. And in the meantime, we're doing all this as well. So let's go ahead and try this again, right? We have all these cleaned up. We got rid of the bubblegum geometry, right? The silly putty. We're gonna let it align. Let's see if it works. What does it look like? It looks like a bunch of mumbo jumbo. It was close, but not quite. So this is the fun part. Nat. So we have two shapes here. We're gonna go ahead and move one of the shapes with, what button is it? Here, like this. I forgot how to move it. There we go. So we have our two shapes here. We want to go ahead and line them up. So on this left side of the screen, which you can't see on Insta, let me go ahead and move it over. You can kind of see on Insta, it's called Create Marker Pair. So now to manually align this, we're going to go ahead and start creating markers. Create Marker Pair, and right click that corner. And technically that's like this corner here. And then we're gonna go ahead and create marker pair again. We'll do this corner in here because that is this corner in here. Create marker pair. We'll do this corner here, that corner there. Create marker pair. We'll do kind of looks like we could do this here and that there. Create marker pair. The more like marker pairs that you do, the better it's gonna align. So like if we come to this backside, right? Come over here and we say, you know what? We did this one here. This is the inside of that. We come back this way. It should be about like this here. So now we've done a bunch of lines. We've done a bunch of like, okay, this is where they're supposed to go. So now what we could do is we can go ahead and align based on that and see how well we did. So click align, and it nests them within each other. It looks pretty good. You can kind of see. I mean, it's not bad. That is not bad at all. So we'll leave that as such. We'll click on the next thing to be aligned. We'll go ahead and move it over. I can just remember what button it was. There we go. Rotate it so we can see what we're working with. You can kind of see this way here. There we go. You can kind of see that this is what we want, and we're going to start making more marker pairs. Again, the more things we have lined up, the better our geometry is going to be in the end. And that's what we want. We want something that we can take home to mama. You know what I'm saying? Let's see. I need to kind of move this over, because there's that opening. So we can create marker pair and kind of like, I think it's right here. And I think that's that right there. And then coming to the front corner, create marker pair. We can do like this right here. That's where it starts curving. We can kind of see that here as well. That's where it starts curving. Where else? This corner right here. Oh no, do that. There. Create marker pair. We want this corner here. And that's like that corner there. We want something else to align it. Let's see, we can do this corner here into this corner here and align. Sometimes when you are going through aligning all the different scans, right? If you focus all of your line points in a small area and you go to align it, those points may touch, but the rest of the model might be all wonky. So that's one thing that you need to like be weary of when you're doing this. So if you look at it, those three scans right there, all together, that's pretty good. Now we need to add like a backside to it. So let's go ahead and get this one. Oh no, I just unaligned something. Why? How? That's not the one that I wanted to move, right? Man. Gosh dang it. That's the thing that kind of sucks, is like, if you're trying to do things in a hurry, you end up moving things that you don't want moved. That backside here. Another one there. We got this here. What else we got? We could probably line up this back here. So say like the back of this, and that'll be actually this side here. Let's align it. Boom, look at that, aligned up. So let's hide the one that we just lined up, and let's fix the one that we messed up. again, another nice, looks pretty good. So if we start like unhiding all these shapes that we've already aligned, you can see we're getting more and more of a solid feature. And then if we process and we don't hit auto, right? Because we've already done the manual portion. So if we don't hit auto and come in, it should go ahead and just finish cleaning up the little bit that we've done.
Chunks 3D, Chunks 3D.
All right, so the next shape that we have, let's hide these other ones so I don't move the wrong one.
Chunks 3D, Chunks 3D.
There's a little end piece. I'm actually not sure we need it. It might help with like an internal structure, but the way things are looking with all the other pieces that we've scanned, I don't feel that we need it. Let's take a look at this one. This one might help a little bit. So we'll go ahead and match it. Let's see, how well did that do? Terrible. You know, if you're lucky, you can kind of like yeah, manually lining it up like that is, I don't know, man. No way. Here, we'll do this. Hey, there we go. That one worked. Hell yeah. Ugh. Stress. What else we got? Another solid scan of the... It's more like just this left side here. It's really not that important. It doesn't have enough features for me to like try to mirror it. This is that hole. This is kind of important. This would actually clean up a lot of this side here. So let's try to... Okay. Create marker pair. We are looking at some like this and some like this. Another one of the, like right here. Right? Here we go. All right, let's look at these pieces here. We are looking at a pretty much solid piece. So now let's go ahead and process this. Process. Align mode, we don't want auto, we already hit manual. Process. Next. Here we go. So now it's going to go ahead and texture build all of those scans together to go ahead and make a solid object. You're going to see all of the random geometry that it builds. And again, all that stuff, depending on what sort of software you're using to go ahead and finish the model. If you're using like a ZBrush, you can do like a flattening tool to go ahead and flatten the outside. If you're using Blender, I believe Blender kind of does like the same thing. If you're using CAD software, you would probably just kind of like cut the outer geometry off somehow. But here is our modeled piece. This is it right here. Look at that. Look at that. So of course, this internal area here, nasty. We don't want that. We'll clean it up. This is the shape though. Again, this internal area here, nasty, but it's doable. We can clean that up. Outer areas, again, doable. It even like captured a little like, there's a line here from the initial like, because it's a two-piece mold that they did this out of. They like in plastic and injection molded it. That line, that groove, you can actually see it here on the file, on the model. That's pretty good. I'll probably use 3D modeling software to cut a hole through this for the screw to go through. I'll just use my calipers to measure that out, clean up this interior portion here, but this, as far as like the outside features, this is pretty spot on. I'm happy with it. Again, it's not perfect. When you 3D scan, it never is perfect. All the stuff they show you on the internet are lies. It's never that easy. Now, I'm pretty sure maybe there's some software that uses AI, and maybe AI can probably make it better, but I don't have any of that, and I don't know if it is available. So, yeah, that's where we're at. I'm going to be working on some other models, but this is the first of many. This live stream wasn't going to be that long today. I have a couple of things I got to do, but I thank y'all for stopping by. I bid you adieu, farewell, Avida Zane, and like always, I'll catch you guys in the next stream. Later.